Welcome back to the Plug In for More podcast. Today's episode, we sit down and talk with the All Electric family. The All Electric family is a popular YouTube and Instagram, and they're pretty big on TikTok as well. You can find them there. Their handle is All Electric Family, except on Twitter, All Electric Fam. Their messaging is pretty simple. It's about EV ownership and making that transition to show that it isn't that hard. And they're here to share with us their story and tips and tricks that they've learned to help you on your transition to EV ownership.
Yeah, one of the things that I really thought was interesting about them, and one of the reasons I first started listening to them and watching their TikTok videos, is because they have a Rivian R1T, which is a pickup truck, and they tow a Airstream with it, and that really caught my eye. They also have been in EVs for a long time, so they started out with a 2012 Model S and Model X, and they also have a Ford F-150 Lightning. So if you like the comparisons between those two trucks, the F-150 and then the Rivian, check them out.
And also, you'll hear a little bit from Aaron Jones as well. He wanted to fanboy a little bit with the All Electric family and joined us for the interview. So please enjoy.
Welcome to Plug In for More, brought to you by evuniverse.com. EV Universe is your one-stop shop for all things related to the electric vehicle. Here on this podcast, our goal is to educate, inspire, and hopefully make your transition into the electric vehicle marketplace a lot less intimidating. And now, here are your hosts, Mike, Tom, and Bryant.
Well, we just want to just get started into this, and I'd love to hear about what brought you guys into the EV space and how you got involved with travel and Rivian or Tesla or what stuff you're working with.
One Thanksgiving day, I was cruising the internet and found a 2012 Tesla Model S that was a decent deal at the time. Anyways, I was so excited about it that I came back and from Kansas City to Lincoln, Nebraska, about 3 hours to pick it up. And this is the first charging fail of my life. I didn't quite realize much about EVs I thought you just plug it into a wall and it would be charged in no time. Sure. And anyway, so was going to drive back down to Kansas City. Well, it had like 50 or 60% battery. And I'm like, it told me to go back to the Tesla supercharger in Lincoln, which is like 5 miles. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to hit one on the way. There's plenty on the way. And I pull in an hour away from Lincoln and plug in, and I just go into the restaurant and I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, what's going on? Like, it's not charging very fast. So anyways, besides that point, like, having an electric vehicle was just so much fun to me. It was something new. It was techie. It was just, I don't know. It was a lot of fun. It was just something different. And so I fell in love with it at that point in time. We have always had a lust for adventure, and that was more brought on by Katie. And so,
yeah, just always ready to try something new and just latest and greatest. And so,
sure.
We just kind of dove in from there. So
yeah, my brother had a camper that got totaled, and so that's kind of how we got into the camping side of things. And she talked me into that. I just thought it was going to be another thing to fix and work on.
Honey-do list.
Which is reasonable to assume that. Yeah.
yeah.
With TikTok is your guys' biggest platform right now.
Mm-hmm. It is.
What was the first video there that went viral that you realized, oh man, we are onto something here?
That would be actually because we got a Tesla Model X. So the Model S lasted for a little while. And then we actually didn't have any electric vehicles. And then Steve came to me with the idea of getting a Model X. So we had the Model X, and it could do the Christmas stuff. And I'm a little bit of a Christmas fanatic. And so that was like the first thing that I posted about the car on TikTok, was it doing like the Christmas show where it opens the wings and does a little dance and stuff. And that actually was the first video that I posted on TikTok. And at the time, we were just on YouTube. So, getting 1,000 views was like this big deal. And posted it, and all of a sudden it was like at 1,000 views, instantly. And I was like, oh, so we, and then we started sharing like
There
everything.
there was 3 Christmas videos that you did.
Just took off.
Yeah.
And so now with the traveling you guys are doing with the Rivian and the
Yes.
Lightning and towing the Airstream, like what are your goals around it as this is starting to take shape?
See how far we can push the limit.
Yeah, we enjoy the challenge of it. It's something that is going to only get bigger from here moving forward, and you're starting to see more on the RV side, them realizing that, and it's pushing their technology, although some of those things haven't come through yet, but they're going to be looking for assist drives and stuff like that, which honestly will be good for all vehicles, whether it's just a regular gas burner diesel or even a hybrid, because it's going to, what I understand of the industry, that side of it, they're just trying to get you to have the same amount of range or efficiency that you had without pulling a trailer. It's only going to get bigger, whether it's just for EVs or not. But, EVs are obviously the most difficult with towing. And so we want to take on that big challenge and, grow that community as much as possible. And hopefully just provide a lot of information that people can make that decision for themselves when they want to enter that community. And so that's why we started the EVRV rally too, so we could get that community together.
Can you tell me more about that, the rally?
Yeah, so it was just a idea we kind of had on a whim, to try to see, who would, how many people out there towing would want to get together and hang out and talk shop and, tell our stories. And so we had the idea in August, found a campground that happened to have some room, and we went and in October in Amana, Iowa, and had about 10 different setups. So 10 different EVs towing something that came out, and we were all in this one place and talk shop, and we got to meet a couple of the guys from Lightship RV, which is a really interesting RV company that is brand new, like they're just getting their funding and everything. And so we just spent the weekend showing each other, what we were pulling, how we were pulling, telling stories of where we'd been, the charging horror stories. How low have you pulled into the charger with, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun, and we're hoping everybody that was there had a blast and is wanting to do it again. So we're actually just we think we have dates and hopefully a location set for it. So we are going to be looking at doing one again next year, making a little bit more bigger and a little bit more formal, because it was a lot of fun. Everybody had a good time.
Very cool.
What I was going to ask, especially since people are going to be kind of trying to decide between the Rivian, between the Lightning, the Model X, did the Rivian and the Lightning both come equipped with the tow package? Was that an add-on you guys had to do?
The Rivian has, you can't really choose a whole lot with the Rivian, and it does come standard with the tow package. The Lightning, you have to get, I believe it's like the Lariat, well, maybe it's extended range, and then you have to add the tow package. And what that gets you, my understanding is just like an extra, is it cooling for the battery? It's some sort of extra thing for the battery. And then, so you have to add that. And it's, the Platinum is rated at 8,500, which when they first released this, they said 10,000, but then, must have pulled back, which is the extra equipment or what. And then the Lariats with extended range battery is 10,000. And then the Rivian is 11,000, which is kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's just a standard hitch and receiver? I mean, nothing out of the ordinary?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no fancy
No,
EV technology with the
no.
hitch.
No, the
Uh,
Tesla had an
We'll
interesting
have to-
hitch on it. The Model X does, but
yeah.
like,
I've had to
Yeah.
install
Yes,
many of
there
them.
you go. Well,
Yes.
the Rivian, if you look at some of the photos or videos, you can see how it's tucked underneath
yeah, it is.
quite a ways. And I thought that was going to be a bit of an issue, just with the proximity of everything, but it really isn't. And I'm assuming the reason that they did that is all, what is it, departure angle or whatever that's called.
Oh,
I think
for when
that's
you're
why they did
off-roading.
that.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah. But interesting enough, the Rivian is more stable than the F-150, which I would not have thought that going into this.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's funny because when we first started posting, pictures of the Rivian and the Airstream together, I mean, everybody was like, that thing's overloaded. You're a danger to society, and then we're like, actually, it's like well within its towing limits because it's just in the size. It doesn't look like it can handle a 30-foot trailer, but man, it is solid going down the road, and it is well within its limits.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So kind of rolling into that, you guys spend a lot of time responding to these guys or these people on TikTok. What's the biggest thing, the biggest misconception you find yourself kind of educating on daily?
It's that, well, it all probably honestly ends up being the time factor, how long it takes. We get a lot of, well, that took your entire vacation, or it took you 10 hours longer or something like that. Or, it takes 12 hours to charge every time. And you're like, no, actually it doesn't. So that's probably our biggest one, is the time. And then just range would be the next one after that. People thinking, when you're towing, that you can go, 80 miles an hour. And, we watch TFL. We love the stuff that they do, but they put out that video that you can only go 80 miles of range towing. And it's like, we want to put like an asterisk and be like, well, okay, but there's so many factors that can go into that where you can make it go, you can go longer, and you can get up to 150 miles when you're towing. So that's probably the two biggest things.
Yeah, you could get a lot further if we didn't have a 30-foot Airstream, like
the biggest
the
one.
reality is, if we had a smaller camper, we'd make it look real good. So it's one of those things. But we bought it for our family. We bought the trucks exactly how we want them. The Rivian's got the 20-inch off-road tires. Like that's the worst efficiency. Like, just
we did not
everything.
choose options for aerodynamics and efficiency. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Now, did you have any fears of starting EV travel, like with towing the trailer and like we talk about these misconceptions? And then did any of these other fears come true, or what would you tell the people that are thinking about wanting to do the same thing to help them get over that hump?
Yeah, so he's kind of been more fearless than I have. I've definitely been the one that like has more range anxiety. And truth be told, with the Model S, originally I made him get rid of that thing. And it was an early Tesla though. So it was it was a 2012, right? So, I mean, it was an early Tesla, and
non-autopilot, no heated seats. No.
Well, and my family lived in Kansas City and we live in Lincoln, Nebraska. And, we're not really at the cutting edge of charging technology out here, so chargers were few and far between. And we would drive from Lincoln, Nebraska to Kansas City, and the car just didn't have the range, so we had to stop and charge on the way to Kansas City. And we had little tiny babies at the time. And I was just like, I'm over this thing. Like, we can't do this. And so he had to kind of convince me when we went to go get the Model X, and he's like, it can make it to Kansas City without having to stop to charge. And I was like, okay, I'll give this a try again. And then we got the Tesla, and, to most people considering going EV, I would say to go Tesla first, just because of the charging infrastructure. Because we got the Tesla, it was super easy to charge, no issues. I mean, ever with charging with the Tesla, and it was great, and we loved it. Even with towing, the biggest thing was because on the Teslas you pull in forward, it's a little bit more difficult to get creative with pulling into, or sorry, no, you don't pull them forward, you pull them backwards. So when you pull them backwards, it's harder to get creative to charge without having to unhook. And so that was our biggest thing with towing. So then we, once I fell in love with the Tesla, and then he showed me the Rivian, way back before it was a thing. It was just this idea that was out there, and told me that they could tow a bigger trailer and all of this stuff. And so I was in, and, so we waited for that. And actually the reason we ended up with a Lightning reservation too was because we were supposed to get the Rivian in 2020, but it didn't come out and it didn't come out. So then he put in the reservation for the Lightning so we could tow something bigger. And then we ended up getting both of them within like 3 months of each other. So that's when you start getting into the issues. When we started getting on the CCS network is when we saw our first kind of hiccups with charging and having to worry a little bit more about that range anxiety and stuff.
I was going to ask, next question was, so when did it go bad? When has it gone bad?
When you have to drive along I-80 with a CCS network in Nebraska.
Yeah. The Electrify America, unfortunately, isn't the most reliable. And I don't have fear with range anxiety. So when, I'm just like, I called Electrify America, I checked the app, it's working. And then 10 minutes out from the charger, look at my app, and it's down.
All of them.
That's when it is a problem. And then...
And you're towing a trailer at that point.
Yeah.
So we were in the Lightning that time around.
Yeah. So it took us, a couple of years for it to go bad. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Of towing.
Yeah, I mean...
yeah.
That's not... I mean...
Still not great. But yeah, that was a unique situation too. Normally I would have just went to a campground, stayed the night, because that was always our backup plan. But we had somebody ahead of us, and they said they charged at this particular charger that wasn't saying it was online yet. And
Brand
so
new.
I dropped the trailer and went, down the road with, not even enough range to get there, thinking I could charge and get back, because we were really trying to get out to Colorado for an event. And so anyway.
And I mean, we've made a few mistakes in that, because we were trying to push it and get there on a time frame. And so we wanted to just move on. We wanted to get further down the road. We wanted to get into Denver, stay the night in Denver, and then go on up to the mountains. And so we were just trying to push it too hard when we knew we shouldn't have, because across the parking lot there's a hotel across the street from where that Electrify America sits in Ogallala, Nebraska. And it's a J1772, so it's slow. It's gonna take you a while to get any charge. But instead of just going over there and getting some charge, I mean, we had our camper. We could have had dinner. We could have, just taken our time and gone on when we decided we had enough charge to get to the next charger. But instead, we wanted to get there faster. So Steve went on to this Julesburg charger and, dropped the trailer. The kids and I stayed in the camper in the Walmart parking lot. And then he calls and, he's like, well, I'm at the charger, but the truck is dead and the charger's not working. And so, then all of we should have started kicking in, but, he ended up having to have the car towed back to, it was a J1772, right? Yeah. So he had it towed back to a J1772 in Ogallala. it was 100 degrees. So, you know, and we didn't bring any generators with us or anything. So we ended up staying in a hotel. It was just a whole ordeal. But looking back, we would have done it differently and not been stranded. But, you know, you live and you learn.
And the lovely thing is we get to document it and throw it on the internet. And then everybody gets to, you know, make decisions after the fact.
Yes. Learn from our mistakes, please.
I think that's the coolest thing is that people are now watching this and they're going, you know, half of the crowd is going, oh, this is why we don't buy EVs.
Yes.
And the other half of the crowd's like, oh, shit, I almost did that.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, in our travels, I had somebody come up to me and say, I can't believe you released that video. That just makes things look bad. And I'm just like, well, we just want to be true with our community. And so it's just, you know, it is what it is. Like, we were ding dongs and, you know.
Well, and that's really cool because the reality is it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you got to know how to work around it or not even work around it. It's just a matter of, it's just a little bit different way of thinking about it. And, you know, I one of the questions I often ask is like, is between any sort of driving in whether it's travel or just commuting in an electric vehicle versus a gas vehicle, is there parts of a gas vehicle you miss? I mean, I don't want to be an EV fanboy all the time because, I mean, it's just trying to figure out, are there parts of it that are better?
So I honestly miss the sound of it. There's, you know, just that the instant torque on an electric vehicle is amazing, but there's also something about just a gas vehicle. And I'm sure it's just reminiscing from, you know, learning how to drive and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just nostalgic, but there's something about that. And there's also like something about, you know, even if it's as silly as putting in a Can-Am air filter to get more airflow, you know, like just silly things like that. I used to do more to my vehicle than that, but it's just like just modifying it and doing stuff like that to make it, you know, perform better. Like, that's a lot of fun tinkering with that. And so there are those aspects. And, you know, I grew up, you know, changing my own oil and changing brakes and stuff like that. And so, you know, miss that a little bit. I can't say that I miss that a lot, but, you know, so.
I'll trade you.
With the nostalgia of it, I get that.
I don't know that there's much that I miss. Pulling into my garage, my nice, warm, toasty garage this time of year and plugging my car in and walking away from it negates like all things. I'm like, nope, this is great. I will stick with this. I mean, I guess I miss our F350 a little bit just because it was big and it was bad and it could do, you know, like it was just big American truck, you know, so I did like that. But, felt like I had some cred when I was listening to my country music when I was in the F350, you know, but
looking down at the other people.
But I just, the convenience of it, especially in the day to day, just negates, you know, anything that I miss from a gas vehicle. So
do both the Lightning and the Rivian, do they both have preconditioning so they warm up before you can get into them in the morning?
Yeah.
It just started getting cold. I'm out in North Carolina, so I had to walk out in my gym clothes to start my car this morning to get it to warm up. And I'm like, man, if I just had an electric car that would have warmed up. I had to do this.
For you is 60 degrees.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna.
Or like 9 or something.
It's like 6 feet of snow outside my window. Yeah, no. And that is really,
both of them have it.
Yeah. And
that's so nice.
Yes,
it is very nice, especially when you get into these winter months. That's it is. It's amazing. The Rivian's a bit more slick. The Ford, I feel like, runs off of the gas or ice, whatever you want to call it, platform where you press start in the Ford Pass app, and then it, you know, says it's starting. It may take 30 seconds, and you don't really know if it's going, but every single time it's been going. So,
so someone who's on the fence, they're not sure if they want to buy an EV. What's your pitch? How do you help them work through that decision making process?
Once you get out there and you do it a couple times, it's just a little bit of a shift in mindset. You just have to think about things a little bit differently, and once you make that shift, it feels normal, and it feels, I mean, like there's no issue to it.
Yeah, I always tell people that they should, kind of dip their toes in slowly, have one electric vehicle, and then, another vehicle if they've always been used to, a gas vehicle, and do it that way. And, take one on a trip, the EV on a trip one time that maybe isn't as crucial to get their exact time and see how that goes. But your day to day, I mean, yeah, I know we make it look like we're traveling every day, but the day to day, like it really is a no brainer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very technical too, so I'll talk them through the charging aspect of it because I get worried about that. A lot of people think you can just plug it into, a regular outlet and be fine. And some people can do that and be fine, but I just want to make sure so they don't get this electric vehicle and then they're just complaining because they're still having to go somewhere to charge it once or twice a week. And so that can become problematic. So I talk them through that. Just to make sure that it's right for them. So my sales pitch is just, talking them through it, and I want them to make the decision that's best for them and their family. And it doesn't really matter to me whether they do it or not.
You're not in anyone's back pocket.
Do your research and check. There is enough YouTube videos, enough information out there these days, and go find somebody that's, telling you information that's actually living with it on the day to day, and learn about the car, because there's enough information out there to know before you know what you're getting into before you buy it. And I think for most people, it's going to work, and it will work well, and be pretty darn easy to make the transition.
And just as someone personally who's on the fence, and I don't mean I'm on the fence of whether or not I want an EV, it's more of which EV do I want.
Mm-hmm.
Turo is your best
Yeah.
friend. Like, you can go and, $100 a night is a heck of a lot cheaper than a 35,000 car you don't love.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go take your Model 3 or your EV6 out for a day or two. See how you have to drive around. Me personally, I don't drive more than 200 miles a week, so I can charge once.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are driving anywhere from 600 to 700 miles a week or greater than that, then maybe this car is not right for you, but there could be another EV on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you guys said, get your information from someone who lives with it daily, and then make it a part of your daily life. It's not as expensive as a lot of people think.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the traveling piece of it and stuff, and even, us going from home to a campground that's 50 miles down the road, especially when we're charging at home, there starts to be a pretty significant savings between taking an F350 to do that job or taking the Rivian to do that job. So, there's just a lot of factors that go into it.
Looking into the future of EVs, what are you guys most excited about? What are you most optimistic about? I mean, what's got you guys just biting at the bit?
Yeah. Well, more money being pushed into the industry as far as your legacy automakers. They're going to do their thing in the beginning, but eventually they're going to have to really be innovative and push the limits with stuff. I like the idea of GM's 800-volt system. I don't know if that's the right way to go. I have not tested that, but I'm super excited to test that out. The only thing I will say for towing aspect is they put the charger on the back, so that'll be interesting. The charging port on the back, and as Katie stated earlier, that was a bit difficult with towing, but I'm assuming, like Rivian's doing in the future, they're going to have a towing, specific charger where you can just pull in. So it's probably not going to be that big a deal. That would be something that I'd be excited to see in the future. There's obviously going to be $1.2 trillion. Not all of it's going to EVs, but there's, lots of billions. That's going to be
I was going to say, that's an alien with a T.
Lots of zeros.
That's lots of zeros.
So it'll be interesting to see how much they actually pump into that and they're actually innovative. I am a bit worried that they don't have their supply chains down to actually keep these chargers going. They're going to put a bunch of them out there and, but anyways, there's going to be more chargers. So obviously your probability of getting one that's working is going to increase. And I'm excited about all the pickups that are coming out. I, would like to have maybe an SUV or something like that. But right now, just with all the trucks coming out, that's why we have 2 trucks. And we will probably have that for the next year or so, where we have, 2 trucks, just testing them out, putting them through their paces. And I want to see, some of these new innovative, most importantly for me, the 800 volt. So,
yeah.
The Polestar 3 will be out really soon. You guys can get that SUV there.
Yeah, I will be pushing for an SUV again in the future, just, the mom car. But, the trucks work out well now. And, like Steve said, the charging and having it be more readily available. And, I think some of my excitement comes from the changes that we have already seen from the time that we first had an EV to now, and how different it has gotten and how much better it has gotten in that short period of time. So, the changes are coming and it is getting better. And so to watch that happen so quickly, and thinking of different places that we can go once, the infrastructure's there, and it's going to be happening pretty quickly, I think.
Guys, I want to make sure that our listeners can find you. Where can we find you on your socials at?
So we're on pretty much everything is All Electric Family. So YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I guess Twitter is All Electric Fam because you have to limit your number of letters. But just on all of the socials, we're All Electric Family.
Perfect. And I'll make sure we get links in our description of the podcast itself. It was an absolute joy talking with you guys. It's been fun. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we know, the listeners know, or
just don't be afraid to get out there and try it. If if they talking about people on the fence, like just go give it a shot and see how it goes.
Yeah. I was told by my brother to go test drive a Model S. And I'm like, oh, those things look like spaceships. I'm not sure that's right for me. And then I sat in the thing and I pressed on the accelerator and I'm like, okay, I want one. That's all it took. So it's just the instant torque and it was just cool technology. So you're right. The Turo idea is great that Aaron was talking about. That would be something great, or just go to a dealership that has an electric vehicle if you just want to take a short drive and test drive that.
Cool.
I look forward to hopefully having you guys on for some guest highlights too at some point in time in the future.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Thank you for listening to Plug In for More. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, check out the one-stop EV marketplace, evuniverse.com. Until next time.